silicon molding. I was wondering if that gave off any smell that might give you away when you're using that technique.
When I was first showing it to Han, he says, it feels like I'm in the dentist now.
Yeah. So
it does have a little smell, but it's not like in a chemical plant or anything. No.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
You said that the clay kit had a problem where the key that you made didn't last very long because it would wear away when you put it in the lock. There's a technique that you use for modeling where you use an epoxy. So you fill the mold with epoxy and then you fire it in the oven. And I think you might get something a little bit harder because I assume that's like lead or pewter or something. It's pretty soft.
Yeah, well, thanks for the advice. I will definitely look into that. I haven't heard about that, but it makes a lot of sense to use some epoxy and having it harden out. I just repeat the question because I'm not sure if, but I will look into that. What's the name of that?
I'm not sure if it has a name, but if you look up,
okay.
It's used for like making figurines and things.
Okay, thanks. I'll look that up. That's a familiar face coming up now.
There you go. All right. Well, first thing is coming what he just said. Actually, I got the impression, excuse the pun if you want to call it such, that you don't actually use the clay to open anything. You're making something with some other material. So I don't think I assume that would be, so the wear shouldn't be an issue. Actually, I was thinking about epoxy products myself as a possible way to make an actual key because some of them are quite strong. Now, different question. Okay, you're talking about a special silicone multi-part product, probably similar, like you said, with dental.
I have a very difficult time understanding you.
Okay, let me.
Can you make the question short and brief and compact and clear to me as possible?
More time here. Let me back a little bit. Maybe it's too close. How's that? Any better? 1, 2, 3. Any better? Okay, my question was what this was. Okay, it's a fancy product using mixed epoxy, a silicone mix. My question is, what about normal RTV single part epoxy, silicone like you might use for other things such as caulking or other things? They're pretty rubbery as well and would probably still hold on an angle. Have you tried something like that? Because that would be a lot cheaper and probably be a lot simpler to work with if it would have the right characteristics, certainly more common. And it would be easy to do, just carry a little tube in your pocket. You wouldn't have to worry about mixing stuff or anything else.
You lost me.
Though. In other words, normal silicone in the tube, it's a one-part product. You don't mix anything. It's normal if you get in a normal hardware store. You might use to caulk your bathtub or whatever. It's still silicone. It's still very rubbery. It would still survive those angled cuts, I would think, if you get a good one.
Maybe. I don't know.
It might be worth trying. It's going to be a lot simpler. As far as the marking materials for impressioning, I never found with modern locks much luck with the soot method, but actually marker, if you use a good permanent marker on some locks can be helpful. I've read things that said it. I found, in fact, it can be useful sometimes, depending on the lock.
Okay.
I'm wondering what kind of metals you use for the clay molding.
Yeah, that's a good question. I bought these kits complete, and it's a relatively soft metal that will melt at very low temperatures, like with a candle.
So is it like lead, you think?
It's probably some compound with lead and zinc and.
Woods metal or
What's it called, Eric?
Woods metal or Fields metal, right?
Okay, thanks, Eric.
Right.
Doug.
What are your views on the electronic authentication of keys from the locks? Would that add the extra layer of security? So even if you did copy the key with your methods that you talked about, then the key would still not open the lock.
Yeah. That's a good question, because I specifically said during my presentation mechanical locks, pieces of metal, mechanical. No, but you're right, because there's now a lot of electromechanical locks on the market, and they obviously, in theory, would not have these problems that you could copy them, because the challenge response cryptography in these chips is really strong in some cases. However, if people read my weblog a couple of weeks ago, there's people out there with very, very sophisticated, clever, simple techniques to bypass some of the electromechanical locks. And at this moment, as we speak, we're in close contact with one of the biggest manufacturers who have an electromechanical lock that can be bypassed with a simple ring with a few magnets, that if you twist the ring in the area, in the surface of this electromagnetic lock, it will unlock the electronic part, because we don't know exactly why that happens. It could be that the little motor that blocks the lock, by turning this magnetic field around, will actually remove the blocking element. Or it could also be that by inducing a changing magnetic field, and if there's a coil anywhere on the path of that, of the unlocking mechanical or electronic element, current could be induced on that wire, and all of a sudden, things can happen. So it's nice to think that electronics is the answer, but I think that we're just at the very beginning of where this is going, and this is not anywhere near a solution that says, oh, if you use electronics, it's fixed forever. But it definitely is a good help. I definitely have to say that's the best defense you have at the moment. Thanks. Next.
Yeah, I kind of lost my voice here, so
Okay.
give me a little bit. I used to make small molds for car parts, and I would take like an old pager, like with the vibrate mode, and hold that up next to the molds as I was pouring metal in, and that vibrator would kind of take the bubbles out of the mold when I was pouring it. I don't know if you could use that with the key or not, but...
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thanks. Did everybody get that? Because it was actually quite a good idea to use a little vibrating element on your key mold. And then if you insert the metal, the whole thing is already shaking. You have to be careful with your fingers, though, because this hot metal is hot. But next.
I just had a question about my work key. I was under the impression it's the Blue Master Lock key. That there were different combinations that you could set the lock itself to a different combination. Like mine's a green key. I think my boss has the red key. How would you go about finding which key would work with that particular lock, especially on one that was hard to copy like this one?
Well, there's been a whole discussion, I think maybe 4 years ago, by Matt Blaze and Mark Tobias, who found out a way to, if you know some keys in a master key system, or even if you know one, how to crack master key systems and how to calculate the master in a system, what that looks like. And most of the time, if you have access to one key of a master key system, and it is a general speaking, then the system is compromised, and you can open all the doors if you are determined enough to do the attack as Blaze and Tobias have laid out.
Even with the side pins that, because you need to find a blank, I guess. There's no way to
That's
manufacture
what this talk was about making your own blanks and stuff. So the blank is not the problem. I mean, if you are determined enough, it's only a piece of metal with some grooves and some holes and some cuts in it. It's nothing more, nothing less. And it takes determination, especially with the multi-lock interactive lock that you have there.
Right.
I don't say it's easy, but on the other hand, if you would give that key to me for 20 minutes, or no, for 20 seconds, I make a detailed photocopy of it, and I give you a week later, I give you your key when I'm back in the Netherlands, and I just read how deep it is and what the combination is. And most likely, I mean, I cannot say it with 100% certainty, but with a high degree of certainty, I can make that key for you without seeing that ever again.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Schuyler.
Hey, Barry. I was wondering, do lock companies implement things in the lock, such as particular pins, anything like that, to specifically thwart impressioning?
Yes, there are some pins. For instance, Dome makes a pin that is a bottom mushroom pin. All the mushroom pins are top pins normally, and with picking that's very frustrating, because then you pick and you have the idea, aha, the lock is turning, but actually the mushroom pin is in the way. And Dome makes these pins bottom pins. With impressioning you never have problems with mushrooms. As a matter of fact, if your lock turns like it's in a mushroom, it's an indication, okay dude, you went too deep, because now you have reached a pin that's normally on top of the bottom pins.
We have a picture of that, Barry. If you want, I can show.
Yeah, it's okay. I think it's clear enough, I think. So that's with impressioning and key specifically, or pin specifically for that purpose. So, And I've also seen them in French lock. I think Fachette
Yeah.
also has them. So, yeah. Good. Wat moet je nou toch, man?
Niks, jongen, niks. Rustig, man.
Next.
Hi. I've been noticing that a lot of the European keys are actually a little bit more secure than the ones in the United States, just by your presentation, for example. I'm wondering, how easy is it to import European locks into the United States, meaning like buy one from Europe and get it mailed to me in the United States?
Well, you should talk to Han about that. Han is an expert on that field. He also can maybe deliver some US-shaped high-security locks.
Yes.
And after the presentation, just meet up with him downstairs at Lockpick Village, and it will work out.
All right, thank you.
It's fine.
Yeah?
Okay.
Okay.
Can you switch this on? No, in your laptop.
Why?
Because I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, can I sit here? My English is not as good as from Barry. I first will go to the correct sheet. Okay. Oh, this is a sheet I found now. It's a sheet which demonstrates the floating part in a key for the protection against molding. I don't know if people are interested, if they want to know how that works. Yes? Okay. Now we all can imagine this is a DOMI-X system, and there is a floating part in the element, a floating element in the key. On the left side, you see the key with the blue ball bearing. On the right side, at arrow A, you can see an extra chamber where a red pin and a red top and bottom pin are mounted in. If the spring pushes down here, pushes down the top pin, and the rotation is blocked. If I insert the correct key, there is a blue ball bearing. That blue ball bearing lifts up the bottom pin, and we have a shear line. This is clear? Okay. The trick is that the ball bearing has a certain diameter, so that you have the correct height to create a shear line. If you look on the left picture, or the picture in the middle, you see a blue pin in the plug. Yeah, we see that? This plug is stuck. It's a fixed plug. This plug prevents that if you insert a key which is not milled deep enough, does not go in the hallway. You understand? And on the tip of the key, there is partially the key is milled in deeper. And because the key is milled in deeper, it can go under the blue pin here. So everybody understands, so that now you can insert the key, and but if you insert the key, wait, I will point it out as if you insert the key, the flash of the key is this height. This height. I assume you all understand that. And because the height is not deep enough, this red pin rests below. Yeah? And because that pin rests below, there is no shear line. And therefore it does not rotate. And the most clever trick is then the ball bearing. The ball bearing has the right height. But how do you get that right height on the right position if there is a fixed pin? You understand? And therefore, they made a tunnel in the plug. So that the ball